So my name's Daniel, and I am in the psychology PhD program with a concentration in depth psychology.
When you were searching graduate schools, what compelled you to choose Meridian?
So when I was looking for grad schools, initially I was looking for a program that had an emphasis in depth psychology. That was something I was really looking for. But then I also wanted to look at the course material, at least as much as I could see. And when I looked at the different emphases with Meridian, especially the transformative learning aspect, and then the examples of courses that they offered, I remember looking at each of the courses that had been offered in the past and thinking I would take every single one of those classes. And it helped me be really excited to be in an environment that focused on transformative learning and that had subject matter I was really excited.
How would you describe transformative learning, and why was it important for you in a curriculum?
So transformative learning is a really interesting experience in that I feel like there's a lot more autonomy for the learner, where the instructor or the professor in the curriculum provides some guide rails, but it almost feels more like lampposts when you're walking through the woods at night. And for me, that is really challenging, I think, as a student in some ways, because that's not what a typical educational program is about. They don't emphasize that. But I feel like the gains on the back end are so much greater than I would get from a more traditional academic program.
Why did you choose depth psychology, and what has it been like for you to take your core courses and be able to focus on a concentration in this way?
So for me, depth psychology was something that I was really drawn to through my own personal work in the past, but also it's the thing that I spent all my free time kind of reading about and talking about. It was the thing that I would just do if I wasn't studying it or working with it. I find that the approach to the psyche is really beautiful and really potent from the depth psychological lens. The kind of work that you do with it is really powerful. I'm really drawn to dreams as psychic material, as working with imagery, and those kinds of experiences. And so for me, finding a program that does that is really important, especially because I feel like in a lot of Western society and culture, the emphasis is really on the opposite side of the spectrum. And it feels more like an answer to the problem than a Band-Aid solution that we often get.
As you've been going along, what has your experience been like with other students and faculty?
My experience with students and faculty so far has been really interesting. There's a lot of diversity in the faculty, and I feel like at the end of the day, the faculty has really provided me some opportunities to come to know myself in a really important way. I think about like Megan, for example, that I spent so much time with for the first year. And I think about the experience I had with her in the class Sacred Purpose and Professional Practice. It completely changed the way that I saw myself for the better. It changed the way that I saw my personal and professional journey in a really potent way that set me on a course that has, I feel like, tapped me into a layer of authenticity that was previously inaccessible.
Are you doing the standard pacing, accelerated pacing, and if so, how has that been for you to balance coursework and everyday life and other things you have going on? What's that like for you?
So I'm currently doing a standard pacing. I came in with just a bachelor's degree, and my bachelor's degree is in outdoor education, which has been really fun to find a way to balance those two things. I'm also married. I've got 2 kids. I have a full-time job, and I typically am taking 2 classes at a time. So balance has been really tricky. It takes a lot of conversations with my partner to find ways to balance out. It takes a lot of intentionality with my schedule and coming to understand the nuance of how a quarter feels in my own system. So I know, for example, that certain weeks of the quarter, I need to have nothing else scheduled. And that's something that I've come to understand. And so then I factor that into my planning for a week or even into a quarter.
Have you started your dissertation process? How close are you to that? And do you feel held and seen throughout that process, as it is a big thing?
So in the dissertation process, I've taken the first course, the research methods course, which I think every doctoral student can really gain a lot from that particular class. I had that class with Megan, and I would say I felt very held during that process. I actually had a lot of physical issues, like a lot of health issues come up during that course. Megan worked with me the whole way and really helped me answer the question of why that I think is critical in the dissertation process. Why am I doing this? And is this the right step? Which I think that's the purpose of it. And then it also helped me to find some ideas for me to then take to my advisor and counsel with my advisor about, and then walk away from that with Tim, and then take that and say, what's the next step? And he was able to really guide me in saying, this is good, maybe rethink this, and then here's the next step for you. Go into this course, look for this specific kind of thing. And really both of them together have helped me to begin to narrow in the way that you need to for a dissertation.
What do you hope to do after you graduate from Meridian?
My professional trajectory is to be able to work as a therapist, hopefully to work with trauma, both developmental and intergenerational trauma. I'm also really interested in writing. I've found over the course of my first 2 years that writing is something that I've begun to enjoy a little bit, which I don't know that I appreciated as much beforehand. And in some of the other ways, I think beginning to start to step into more of a community leadership role is something that feels really impactful and inspiring, that I'm still considering how that would look.
Overall, how would you say that since starting at Meridian, your worldview has shifted, and why is that important to you?
Over my time at Meridian, I would say one of the biggest ways that my worldview has changed is being able to work from a place of compassion and empathy in my interactions with other people. I find that when I interact with somebody else, in the back of my mind, I'm always filtering what's going on, or at least trying to filter what's going on through the lens of something about this makes sense about why this would be happening, and how can I now stand in a place of compassion and empathy for this person, and then also be able to do that for myself.
That is so powerful, and you'll carry it with you forever. You'll model it for your kids. So yay, that's all really important stuff. And I'm so glad. So thank you. And for my final question here, if you could speak to a student now who might be on the fence about Meridian, what would you say to them about joining?
I think I'd say a couple things. I think the first one would be to just really listen to what's happening inside yourself. I find that in my classmates, there is this theme that emerges that people who come to Meridian feel pulled in internally. They don't necessarily always have a really firm cognitive reason why, but so to really listen to that inside. And then I would say the second thing would be to be willing to really embrace your own capacity for autonomy and authenticity. I think if I could add one thing, it would be start looking for like-minded people at Meridian. There is this emphasis on forming transformative communities of practice. And in a real digital-based environment that we're in at Meridian, it's easy to feel very disconnected from your peers. Finding people online that seem to be like-minded in where they're coming from, their desires, and connecting with those people early, that's a game changer. It's huge. Like, I have lifelong friends that I've made in the program that have really changed my life for the better. And we live hours apart from each other, but we talk to each other almost every day. And so I would say really find those people early.